What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, NQ, the QQQ, and many tickers out there. I'm going to break down what's happening with the news coming out for the market going into tomorrow, which you should be watching for on all the different charts and some very important levels that are going to be tested as we progress tomorrow. But before I break into all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. And the offer ends very soon, in just about 10 days from now. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. As you guys can see on SPY, we have quite a bit of a downtrend that's being respected right now. This is following many other larger tickers out there like SPX, which are also respecting these downtrends. But one thing worth mentioning is that on SPX, we're approaching this 200 EMA right over here. There's a possibility we're seeing some buyers that are trying to defend it, so we could see a little rebound as we approach tomorrow, a small one, as long as we try to maintain the structure. But even if we do get a small little dead cat bounce, a little rebound, that does not guarantee it's going to last forever, as we could still lose our 200 EMA later. If that happens, the market's going to get dragged down even lower. It's even lower targets all the way down here to where my cursor is. I'll talk more about that a little bit later on. But just know that right now we're approaching some critical support on SPY and on ES as well. Could we see a little rebound? It's possible. I'm going to break down the level to watch for. It might just be very, very minor, of course, but then we could continue lower as time goes on, as the trend is more bearish. So I'll break all of this down in just a couple of minutes. Just remember, guys, we have some very important earnings coming out. For tomorrow, we have Verizon announcing earnings before the market opens, not to mention a few others like the Bank of Hawaii. And then after the market closes, we have cliffs and just very, very minor ones. But for Tuesday, we have a very, very important day. That's going to be the most important day of the week, in my opinion, for earnings, because we have Spotify announcing earnings, UPS, and then Coca-Cola and GM before the market ends up opening. And then after the market closes, we have Tesla, Alphabet, Visa, and a bunch of others. Tesla and Alphabet will be two big ones. It's going to shake the entire markets, so get ready, especially for Tesla right over here. So Tesla's going to be big for the EV sector. We're going to be watching a lot of important things that Elon Musk has to say. So I can't wait to see what's announced, if they make any announcements about the robotaxi and such. For Wednesday, we have AT&T and a few others, not to mention Chipotle, Ford, and IBM. So Wednesday's going to be another pretty big day, but not as big as Tuesday. And then for Thursday, we have American Airlines and a few others, not to mention very minor earnings, at least for Friday. But the most important days are going to be Tuesday and Wednesday, especially Tuesday, when we have some big tech earnings starting. So I can't wait to see what's announced. Can't wait to see what moves we see. It's going to be very fun to trade, very fun to play, and very fun to be watching. Also, I just want to note that tomorrow is going to be Monday, July 22nd, 2024. Please note that there's not really much data coming out. We do have some bill auctions coming out at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So look for a little bit of volatility then. Besides that, there's not really anything too significant that's coming out for the markets. And just so you guys remember, Monday through Wednesday are going to be a little bit more minor for data. But Thursday and Friday are going to be a lot more intense, since we have like GDP numbers, not to mention PCE data coming out. So the end of the week is going to be more critical for data. The first 2 to 3 days won't be too bad. So just keep that in the back of your guys' minds. Last thing I want to go over is this right over here. We have the Fear and Greed Index. Right now it's at neutral, just dead in the center. A little bit closer to fearful. It's actually at 49 right now. This could shift a lot depending on what kind of price action we see for the week. As of right now, the charts remain bearish, so I will break down more information about that. Market momentum is still at greed. It's actually dipping now closer to our 125 daily moving average. This is showing signs that momentum is slowing down, as fear is trying to build up a little bit, and the market is continuing to show some weakness. We used to be extremely greedy. Now we're just greedy in momentum, and this could slow down even more. The puts and call option positioning is also starting to go up. We're starting to see a shift, and this is just the 5-day average, by the way, between puts and calls. This is showing us that there's more put buying. We're starting to see a lot more shorts piling in. The market is once again shifting its sentiment, and we're starting to see Wall Street kind of shifting things as well. But this is all part of their game. Don't forget that the reason they're dumping the markets like this is not because it's going to last forever. It may just last a few more weeks, a few more, who knows how long. But very soon, within 1 or 2 months, the market's going to get bought back up. We're going to see another continuation of our squeeze. I'm pretty confident that's going to happen. But for now, they're going to dump things so that they can start buying up these shares for cheaper prices. I think that's what Wall Street's doing, and this whole rotation is just being used as an excuse. Volatility is still extremely greedy above our 50 daily moving average. That's because of the fact that, I'm sorry, it's extremely fearful because right now the VIX is finally breaking out and we're going to be approaching some very, very key levels. Anyways, without further ado, let's talk about what's happening with the markets. I'm going to start off with SPY, it's the most important one that retail tend to look at. Uh, as you guys can see, we have this white trend line over here that's acting as our resistance, and we have two critical supports. We did not technically lose 548 on Friday, but we did lose 550. So this is now a sign that we're seeing consolidation. So we formed a very, very nice looking pennant right over here. And looking at the fact that we're holding this and we're kind of turning bullish on the 4 hour makes me suspect that we might get another retest of this trend line right over here as soon as tomorrow. So we could be looking for a retest of the 550 area. And we'll see if we kind of pop above this or not, but we could continue to sink down later on because this trend line is dragging us downwards. So the trend is more bearish, especially when you zoom out and go to the 4 hour time frame. This is still looking more bearish in my opinion. If you actually look at this chart, we still have a long ways down all the way to this imbalance over here. So it does favor downside. However, going into tomorrow, one thing I just want to call out is that SPY does love to kind of push in the mornings. So check this out. Let me give you some proof of what my claim. So right here, look at what happened on Tuesday. SPY actually pushed a little bit and went even higher. Wednesday is when this rug pull started. But notice how we kind of dipped a bit, then we popped, and then we continued lower. That's because we had some bearish news that came out, which led to the sell-off. But then look at the last 2 days, right? We have Thursday right here. SPY closed on Wednesday around the 556 area. Then we pushed all the way up towards about 559. So we actually gapped up and pushed higher on Thursday before we continued lower. Look at Friday, the same thing happened. We started off down here. We actually pushed a little bit higher towards 554, only to reject off our 20 EMA. So you'll notice that we like to kind of pop and then drop, push a little bit higher than drop during the pre-market. That's the trend on SPY. So our 20 EMA is very close. It's going to be very close to the 550 area. I suspect we're going to see a little rebound to retest it, and then we might get a rejection from there. That's kind of like what the trend is showing us on SPY. If we break 550.5, we could be looking for 552 plus. If we lose 548.5, we'll be dipping all the way down to 547, if not 545.8. My guts tells me it rebounds a little bit, and then we might slow down as time goes on to start rejecting and retesting our lows from Friday. So a pop and drop, a gap up, most likely than a slowdown is the most likely possibility. ES has a similar trend. We do love to kind of reject off the 20 EMA. So I think that this might retest the 20 EMA, 55.81 before it tries to reject. That's the most likely possibility. And notice on SPX on the hourly time frame, we're approaching this 200 EMA, the red line right here. We're actually trying to hold it. So I suspect we might see a little rebound, a little counter trend attempt for about 55.40 around there, maybe a little bit lower than that, 55.30, all the way up here. And then we might reject back down lower. If we lose this red line right here, the 200 EMA, we're coming all the way down to about 54.58. I think that could be our target. And there's going to be a bigger rug pull, but I think we might get a temporary rebound before it continues lower, as long as there's no major bad news. For Nvidia is kind of range bound right here. If you guys can notice, we have support right here at 118. If that fails us, we're going down to 116, then eventually 110. If we hold 118, look for a rebound for 122. As of right now, for the last 3 days, it's been going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. As long as we hold 118, look for a retest of 122, and we might just continue to trade sideways. But if we were to lose 118, we're going to turn more bearish. The trend is obviously more bearish on Nvidia. We have a more bearish looking structure, but the last time we hit this 116 area, we did see this rebound a bit. So even though we have a double top, I think that the odds do favor is more downside for Nvidia, but we might see a temporary consolidation phase between 122 and 118 before we go lower. That's the most likely possibility. But I do favor there's going to be downside eventually back down to the lower 115 area, even like 110, but we might consolidate for a bit before anything else. For other tickers out there, I just want to mention that Bitcoin is actually trying to push right over here. We have 67,250 as our resistance. If this breaks, we're going to be looking for 68,000. If we lose 66,500, we'll be dipping all the way down to this imbalance, all the way down towards 65,800. So we have a nice range right over here, but this is forming a bullish wedge. I favor 68,000 plus on Bitcoin. It does look like it wants to push higher on the hourly and also bigger time frames. For NQ, before I go over the QQQ, Just like SPY, this likes to kind of reject off this trend line right over here, so we can actually draw one out. What you'll notice is that I think I already drew this out. I'm just trying to double check that. Anyways, what you'll notice is that we do have a tendency of kind of rejecting off this trend line. Look for a rebound tomorrow towards 19,800, maybe a rejection off that. I think the QQQ is going to do something very similar. We have a very similar looking trend line as well. Notice there's a lot of chop between 474 and 476. So if I zoom out like this, we're actually kind of consolidating right over here. I'm going to be looking for a nice break back up here towards about 477 to 478 tomorrow. And we'll see if we get a big rejection back down off this trend line. So look for a little rebound, maybe rejection as the most likely possibility. Watch 478 as key resistance. If we break that, we could actually push higher. I don't think we're going to break it, but it's a possibility. If we lose 474, we'll be dipping all the way down towards 472.5. That's going to be a key level. My gut tells me rebound a bit and start dipping as the most likely possibility. And when you zoom out of the chart, just real quick on the 4-hour time frame, you guys could see still looks more bearish. The trend is still very bearish on the QQQ, and we're going to likely test our 200 EMA. My gut tells me it rebounds a bit, then maybe continues a little bit lower. So watch for that very carefully for the time being. Now, how about Aapl? Aapl, in my personal opinion, is looking a little bit more bearish. There's a bit of a downtrend right here. But one thing worth mentioning is that for the shorter term time frames, if I bring up like the 1 hour time frame, I think we're just kind of consolidating as well within this range. For the past 2 days, it's been stuck between 226 and 222. I think we might just continue to trade sideways for some time before anything else. But there is a risk of downside looking at this trend. So I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of pop tomorrow for 226. We come back down to 222 and consolidate. But then later on down the line, we could be dipping to 220. So just be careful as the trend is more bearish. All right, so now I'm going to go on a speed run for the rest of these. Palantir has a double top leg structure, so it kind of favors a move back down to 28. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being the case. So look for a little rebound in the morning for 29, then a push back down to 28 is the most likely possibility. For Supermicro, we're on a bit of a downtrend right over here as we're continuing to make lower highs and lower lows. So this has kind of like a double top right over here, and this actually favors the downside a little bit more, especially as we bring up the 4-hour time frame. So this is actually a little bit shocking, so just be careful right here. I think that this might dip a little bit lower. It looks like it's going to be trying to grab liquidity down here. Look for a rebound in the morning. It could technically get close to about 820. It is still possible, but then it might reject later on, and the trend is still more bearish, so it could still dip lower as time goes on. For Rivian is kind of dipping a little bit. Make sure you watch support at 16.27. If that fails, we're going to be coming all the way down to about 15. If we break past 17, that's close to our 20 EMA. We're going to be looking for 18. My gut tells me it might actually dip a little bit lower. For SoFi's on a bit of a downtrend right over here. If we fail to hold our 20 EMA, I think this is easily coming down towards 7.32. If we hold this, we could try to rebound. It really depends if we could hold our 20 EMA or not. I do see a risk of this dipping down to about 7.32 and then maybe bouncing later on. For the IWM, we also have a similar stuff. We have this gap to fill all the way down towards 213, but that depends on if we end up holding below our key 20 EMA. So if we hold below 217.8, I think we're going down to about 213. If we break past 218, we could try to rebound. Our target's going to be 220. We'll have to see. Maybe maybe we do make an attempt to get back up to 220, then reject. But if we fail to close above 217.8, then I favor this gap fill all the way down to about 213 as a more probable scenario. For AMD, we're on a bit of a downtrend, looking pretty bearish right now. But I'm going to be looking at this support over here. We have the support around this 150 area. Might retest 150. If we do get a rebound off of that, we could retest 155 or so. But then if we establish a lower high, then we could continue later on if 150 holds. So I think we might try to rebound off 150. That's going to be a very important area. 150. Look for a retest of like 155, and then a rejection after that. That's the most likely possibility. ARM, it's going to try to rebound on the 4-hour. I think we're going to be looking for a test of 167 to 169. So look for a little rebound and see if we get a rejection or not, but I do favor that a little bit more. For Coinbase, let's double check Coinbase. We look a little bit more bullish right now. I think that thanks to Bitcoin with this double bottom leg structure, as we held support, I wouldn't be surprised if we go all the way up towards about 262 to 265. It still looks more bullish to me. Turn bearish, I want to see it lose 250. If we lose 250, we have this trend line as support. Losing that turns us, downwards. I don't favor that. It looks to me like it's going to try to go a little higher and try to get up to that 262 to 265 area. It's still building a lot of momentum. Amazon has a bearish looking structure, but there are buyers defending this 180 area. And then on the smaller time frames, it's kind of developing an inverse head and shoulders. So I think what might happen is we might see a little rebound attempt on Amazon, a small one, maybe a test of 185, and we'll see if it rejects or not off 185. But look at this inverse head and shoulders. 185 might be tested, and we'll see if we get a big rejection or not. So watch for this very carefully. I think that's going to be very, very probable. For Meta has kind of like a head and shoulders like structure. Just be a little bit careful with Meta. I would be very, very mindful of that. We have 485 as resistance, and then 478 is going to be our next resistance as well. If we fail to hold above 478, I'd be looking for a move back down towards 473. So we have this move right here. Let me just double check this. And then if that fails us, we'll be dipping all the way down to right over here, which is where we have these lower levels. So I would just be very careful. This imbalance right here would be our next target as well, to 467. So I would favor, a move back down here. This is also previous resistance becoming support if we end up failing. So I see a possible head and shoulders like structure. We'll see if it establishes a right shoulder and fails. If we break 485, we turn bullish. We'll be going all the way up to about 496. If we fail to break that, we could be looking for a rejection right here. This is kind of struggling so far. So just be careful. There is a risk of downside on Meta back down to 467, in my opinion. Maybe it pumps a little bit, then eventually comes back down. If we fail to hold 485, that is. So there is some risk of downside if that move fails. Microsoft's on a bit of a downtrend, kind of rejecting off its 50 EMA. Might retest 440 before it comes back down lower, all the way down to about 434. So look for a 440 retest and 434 as the next potential target. For Alphabet, it's hard to predict. I think it might consolidate, but this depends on earnings. Don't forget we have big earnings coming out. So we'll just have to wait and see what kind of reaction we get. I'm going to be very patient. By the way, guys, I think I accidentally skipped over Tesla. I do apologize about that. Looking at Tesla, I'm going to be looking for a rebound as well. I kind of forgot about this for a second. Tesla's going to likely retest 244 tomorrow. It's trying to rebound on its hourly time frame. But we'll have to see if we get a big rejection off this 244 area. If we fail to close above that, then it's not going to be a good sign. Obviously, we have earnings coming out, so it doesn't really matter as much. But I do see a little rebound attempt for a retest of 244 and then some consolidation for Tesla. It doesn't matter, guys. There's going to be a big move after earnings comes out, so that's going to be a much more impactful catalyst. So we'll just have to wait for that. For GameStop, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here. It's actually looking more bearish to me. I think that, it attempted to rebound and kind of failed. We could technically retest 25 and then continue lower, but I think that our target's all the way down here for 24 flat. So I see a little bit more downside coming for GameStop, and then we'll have to see what kind of reaction we get. Same thing with AMC. We're very bearish looking, so I wouldn't be surprised if this dips all the way down to about 4.996. Just want to call that out. DJT is looking more bearish. We're just barely holding this gap support at 34. If we lose our 200 EMA in the 1 hour time frame, if we lose this 34 area, we have a big gap to fill all the way down to 31. So I do favor that getting filled if we fail to hold. We're looking kind of weak. The VIX is breaking out so far. We'll have to see how well it holds structure, if we can break past 17 or not. So watch for that on the VIX. Overall, it's still holding up very well. It has more upside potential. The 10-year Treasury yield, this is also looking, once again, a little bit more bullish. I could be looking for a test of this 200 EMA. That's part of why the market's dipping. And then the dollar is also starting to break right over here. I'm going to look at the 4-hour time frame on the dollar just real quick, just to show you something. It's trying to rebound right now. We'll see if we hold above our 50 EMA or not. If we do get a little dip here, it could be because the market's going to temporarily try to push, but then eventually if we break out, so this could be forming kind of like an inverse head and shoulders. See how we have like a left shoulder here, and we could be coming down to form like a right shoulder, and that could be because the market's going to temporarily get a little a dead cat bounce, and then maybe this breaks out later on off the inverse head and shoulders. So it makes a move like this because the market's about to do the opposite. So this might cause the market to like push a little bit higher, and then if it breaks out like this may cause the market to get another rug pull. Just want to call that out, guys. That is what the dollar might be doing, and that's going to be something very important. So make sure you keep that in the back of your mind. With that being said, guys, the market has more downside potential, but there might be a temporary attempt to kind of push a little higher by the markets tomorrow morning, just temporarily, right? Just a small little move up, and it might not be sustainable. The market might just be getting ready to grab more liquidity to get another rug pull. Just keep that in the back of your mind. As of right now, the majority of charts are more bearish. And then don't forget that stocks like Alphabet/Google and also Tesla have their earnings coming out. So that's going to have another big effect on how they end up moving. With that being said, I just want to say I appreciate you guys so much for listening. Please have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you, and peace out.